All right, time for us to go behind the headlines, and today we are looking at a story in Iowa. I was scanning through the headlines when I saw this one. Police say man had backpack full of mushrooms, marijuana, packing materials, from the Iowa City Press-Citizen. This piqued my curiosity. A backpack full of shrooms and bud in Iowa? Is this guy crazy? Does anybody have his phone number in case I get a speaking gig in Iowa City? Then I read the actual bust. The backpack contained 14.31 grams of psilocybin mushrooms packaged in equal saleable amounts, 1.24 grams of a white powder containing the painkiller acetaminophen distributed into quarter-gram packages, 2.53 grams of marijuana, a scale, and several glass pipes and packaging materials, according to police. A half ounce of shrooms? That's not a backpack full. That's a handful. And 2.5 grams of weed? A decent blunt. But what's this about the crushed Tylenol in quarter-gram packages? Iglehart has been charged with 2 felony counts of controlled substance violation for the painkiller and the psychedelic mushrooms, and a serious misdemeanor charge of possession of a controlled substance for the marijuana. That's right. Mr. Backpackful here is getting a felony for acetaminophen and mushrooms and a misdemeanor for marijuana. Sure, the shrooms and pot are Schedule 1, but isn't acetaminophen legal to possess? Well, yes, of course. But if you crush it up into a powder and you put it into common powder drug sale weights and packaging, and it's found along with other Schedule 1 drugs and a scale and baggies, then the police assume you were attempting to sell that powder as an illicit drug, like cocaine or meth. That, dear listeners, is a crime on the state and federal level, to varying degrees. At the federal level, 21 U.S.C. Section 331 prohibits the interstate selling of counterfeit drugs. As criminaldefenselawyer.com puts it, if you bought some aspirin in Portland and then sold it as OxyContin at a concert at the Gorge in Washington, you would be subject to the following. A person convicted of the sale of a counterfeit drug involving interstate commerce with no intent to defraud or mislead may face a sentence of not more than 1 year in prison, a fine of not more than $1,000, or both. A person convicted of a sale of a counterfeit drug involving interstate commerce with intent to defraud or mislead may face a sentence of not more than 3 years in prison, a fine of not more than $10,000, or both. And each individual sale can be treated as a separate violation, punished by the maximum sentence. So, a person who sells fake OxyContin online to 10 people may face up to 30 years in prison and a $100,000 fine. Wow. And at the state level, most states have some form of counterfeit drug charge or criminal fraud charge that can be brought against you if you're selling the fake drug, even just within your own state. For example, after following undercover agents to a hotel parking lot, a Missoula, Montana man attempted to sell them a sheet of paper he claimed was blotter acid. Even though the paper tested negative for LSD, the man was charged with criminal fraud and faced a 5-year prison sentence and a fine of $50,000. That's right. You can get 5 years and $50,000 fine for saying that a piece of paper has drugs on it. So for our Iowa City small-time dealer, he may be facing charges for crushed-up Tylenol as if he'd been peddling bindles of meth. Now, the other charge, being a felon for the mushrooms, that's another outrage, and I'll save that for a different column, except to note that nobody should be a felon for possessing nature. This is just another outrage of prohibition, the distribution of unsafe, untested, and sometimes fake drugs. The only time someone's busted for this is when police investigate them, because the illegal nature of the product makes it impossible for the consumers to complain. If drugs were legal, people taking them would know what they're getting. There'd be fewer overdoses, and there'd be less violence, because fewer consumers would be reacting to rip-offs in the only way they can, through extrajudicial and sometimes violent means. Also, guys like this defendant, 24-year-old Matthew Iglehart, wouldn't have to pay for their youthful mistakes with most of their youth behind bars. I checked out this kid's Facebook page. He seems like a regular 20-something dude. He loves his Ron Paul, big fan of Joe Rogan. He posts crude sexual fine lists. He wants to ban traffic cameras and drones in Iowa City. Maybe he's not the winner of any most likely to succeed accolades, but who am I to judge? I mean, I was flipping burgers for a living and living in a trailer park with a meth-addled stripper at his age, so adjust for my definition of regular. He's also got a sweet mom who posts nice compliments on his gun show muscle poses. She just seems like a regular Iowa guy. The felonies he faces in Iowa are punishable by up to 10 years each and a fine of between $1,000 and $50,000 each. The marijuana, a serious misdemeanor, is punishable by up to 6 months and up to a $1,000 fine. However, he's lucky he didn't process his marijuana into hash or hash oil. While it takes 50 kilograms of marijuana to become a Class C felony under Iowa law, it takes just any amount of hash oil to earn 10 years in prison under a Class C felony under Iowa law. I don't think we'll see much dabbing in Iowa. Should Matthew receive his maximum sentence for both felonies, he would not be eligible for parole until he served 6 years of his sentence, thanks to Iowa Code Section 124.413, which mandates that the convicted serve at least 1/3 of their sentence. What would we accomplish by locking him up until he's 30? I'll bet Iowans still manage to get a hold of marijuana and mushrooms while he's away. The prohibition law didn't deter Matthew from allegedly trying to sell personal amounts of drugs. If he was on a bad track now, just wait till after 6 years in criminal university, then emerging on parole as a twice-convicted drug felon. There will be only one job he can qualify for, the one he got busted for in the first place.
He was living in a single room with 3 other individuals. One of them was a male, and the other 2, well, the other 2 were females. God only knows what they were up to in there. And furthermore, Susan, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to learn that all 4 of them habitually smoked marijuana.